As a preliminary matter, this is Beth Cassavant, Chair, and this is the December 22nd, 2020 meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Please permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. John LeBeau.
Present.
John Samia.
Present.
Morris DiPaolo.
Present.
James Kane.
Present.
Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Kevin Mizikar.
Present.
Valerie Clemmy.
Present.
Anticipated speakers on the agenda, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Imad Benyamin.
Present.
This open meeting of the Board of Selectmen is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so the public can follow along with the deliberations. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, the Board of Selectmen is convening by Google Meet as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do, permit me to cover ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, as chair, will introduce each board member or staff member who has the lead role for the particular item or guest speaker associated with an item on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will go down the line of members first and then to staff members, inviting each by name to provide comments or questions. I will then call upon members to offer a motion and then a second. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute and unmute your phone by pressing *6 or mute your computer when you are not speaking so as not to trigger your camera feed with your background noise. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. That brings us to item number 1 on our agenda, which is to approve the bills, payrolls, and warrants.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay. The motion has been made and seconded. Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Item number 2 is to approve the minutes from the December 8th, 2020 meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Mr. LeBeau?
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo?
Aye.
Mr. Kane?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Item number 3 is announcements and reports. Board members, I have a few to read, but if others have announcements, we can take those first.
Madam Chairman.
Mr. LeBeau?
Madam Chairman, there's 2 things that I'd like to announce / report. Honestly, I meant to do this at the last meeting, and I don't exactly know why I didn't, both of these things. But folks may remember that on November 30th, there was a pretty violent rain and windstorm event. That created a situation at Debbie and at our house that required emergency services. And I just want to recognize the very quick response. Nobody was hurt. The very quick response by Shrewsbury Fire and by Selco to deal with a host of storm-related issues. So I don't think anyone's surprised. This is what we hear all the time, but yet another resident who wants to recognize their fine work. The second thing I wanted to mention, actually, the very next day, on December 1st, a retirement took place, though not one of an employee of the town, but someone with whom the town has dealt with for many, many years. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge and recognize the career of Elaine Thompson, who covered this board for 20 plus years. She retired from the Telegram. They did an early, some type of buyout. She retired after 28 years at the Telegram, almost a 40-year career as a journalist. And Elaine was a pro. She took the time to understand things. She very clearly communicated what she heard at meetings. I mean, she was an excellent reporter, and she was very helpful to communicate out a lot of what this board did. So I just wanted to take a moment. I'll miss her. There was always a cordial hello and so-called small talk at a meeting, but she did her job as a true professional, and we'll miss her. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a couple of other announcements. One is to thank our Department of Public Works and all others that helped to at the storm cleanup from the storm that we recently had. It dumped quite a bit of snow. I think it was last Thursday morning that I woke up to like about a foot of snow outside, and very much appreciate the hard work of the DPW in getting the roads cleared and passable. I know that when I went out the next day, it was pretty easy to get around. And then also there will be a 1-day delay on Friday, December 25th for the trash pickup and recycling. If your pickup falls on a Friday, your trash and recycling will be picked up on Saturday, December 26th. There will also be a 1-day delay on Friday, January 1st. So if your pickup falls on Friday, your trash and recycling will be picked up on Saturday, January 2nd. Just a reminder that Christmas tree pickup is scheduled on your regular pickup day, the weeks of January 4th through the 8th and January 11th through the 15th. Please place only one real Christmas tree, free of snow and ice and not frozen to the ground. They must be visible to the collection crew and placed at the curb by 7 a.m. And additionally, keep in mind that on December 8th, 2020, the Board of Selectmen authorized the disposal of one non-pay-as-you-throw trash bag per household for the period of December 26th through December 31st, 2020. Pay-as-you-throw customers will be allowed to place at the curb one plastic non-pay-as-you-throw trash bag up to 35 gallons on your regularly scheduled collection day. So if there are no other announcements, we can move on to item number 4, which is the town manager's report.
Good evening, board members. I have a couple items for you this evening. First, I'll start with an update on the police station and public radio system project. On December 14th, we held a bond rating call with Standard & Poor's Rating Services that I think was rather productive. We anticipate receiving their actual rating back within the first week of January. At your next meeting, after that rating is issued and after work is done by our financial advisor, we'll have bonds for your consideration to sign off on. For this project, we'll be looking to borrow about 90% of the total anticipated costs, and we're using that number just because we're so early in the design process and we don't want to overborrow. We have in hand now revised final proposals from the owner's project manager and architect for that project, and we'll go through final legal review and work with the building committee prior to executing them. With our ongoing major capital improvement project, the Beale Elementary School, continued great progress by Fontaine and the entire team out on site. We're over 60% complete with no budget challenges before us at this point. We hope to continue. The building is well secured for the harsher parts of winter, with most of the exterior masonry work completed and the windows all installed. Just one final update with regards to news out of Washington. There appears to be another federal stimulus package approved and awaiting the president's signature. Just a couple quick points on that with regards to town operations. There's no direct municipal funding, but there is an extension on CARES Act spending deadline through the end of calendar year 21, which is great news, and we'll get into our details on our spending a little bit later in the meeting. There is funding in there for pre-K through 12 schools that will flow through the state and out to the individual districts. I just wanted to thank Congressman McGovern and his district director, John Nizielski, for the information that they provided this evening. I will go through more and provide additional information to the board. And finally, one note, I just want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you to the residents of Shrewsbury for their partnership throughout the course of the year. Certainly was a year that we needed to band together and be all in together. So thank them, thank the staff for their continued leadership and dedication, flexibility to work throughout the challenges that we faced this year and desire to always be better. And last but not least, just want to thank the board for their continued guidance and leadership for this community. So that's the end of my report for this evening.
Thank you. That brings us to your next report, which would be the coronavirus
Madam
COVID-19
Chairman?
update. Oh, Mr. Kane.
Okay. Just one question of the manager regarding the police station / public safety radio. Kevin, is that project 100% linear in that until you have the building or at least the dispatch center operational, there can't be extensive improvements to the radio? Or can that be done almost in a truncated fashion where police fire could be done at one point? And if you don't know the answer this evening, perhaps you could report to the board at a future meeting.
I do not know the answer, but it's a great thing to look into, and I will get you an update for your next meeting.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. If there's no other questions, then we'll move on to item number 5, the COVID report.
Okay, I will share my screen and provide an update to the board with the latest facts and figures that we know as of this evening. So total positive cases in the community since our first case on March 19th has risen to 1,324. It's an increase of 366 cases from your last meeting, which was on December 8th. As of actually December 10th, the community moved into a red status in the state reporting criteria. With that, we have since then risen to 64.7 daily incidents per 100,000 residents, which is an increase of 37.8 per 100,000 since your last meeting. Percent positivity is up 3.6% since your last meeting, up to 7.65. We continue to report cases every weekday. And just a note that went out with our communications today, we will not be reporting on December 25th or on Friday, January 1st. That information will be included in the following Monday's report, unless there's some significant anomaly that we need to report to the community. We will report cases out on both Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. A little bit more information. Unfortunately, we've been notified of 4 additional COVID indicated deaths within the town, and up to 48 within that category. With regards to town building and staffing, we've closed up access to all public within the building. We're no longer accepting appointments as we're under this latest surge. We have solid employee guidance in place that limits total number of employees through January 15th. We've revised that back a little bit and are on a little bit of a thinner environment, and that actually puts us in a good position with the revised guidance that came out of the state today, which would limit total occupancy within office buildings down to 25%. We certainly have exemptions as essential services and employees, but to the extent that we can, we do encourage telework and have been very successful in that environment throughout the pandemic. Just run through the numbers. December has quickly become the worst calendar month thus far, even though we're only 18 days in, which really an unfathomable number. 548 cases so far this month, over 40%. It makes both November and April look rather easy to deal with. The trend, as we've seen it, continues to increase. Over 7 days, 161 cases, 14 days, 366. The bright spot there is the 7-day trend does show improvement over the 14-day trend. And we'll see that coming up in my next slide as well. 30 and 60-day numbers are obviously significant. Hopefully a little bit of a bright spot within the graph. You can see a downward trend over the last week or so. 5 days where our daily reporting numbers have come down, hopefully. This is an anomaly and it is a trend that continues. Perhaps if it does continue, we will be able to say that that was clearly a Thanksgiving trend, as the peak of those cases came about 14 to 20 days after Thanksgiving. We hope to see that trend continue and not rebound upward after the next two upcoming holidays. So some good news here. With the age chart, the 0 to 19-year-old age bracket has become the largest cohort. Certainly has 10 additional years in it in comparison to any other category. However, it has grown exponentially since we started to see an increase in early September, now to 213 cases within that cohort and up almost 1,000% over that time period. I've been through this slide quite often. I'll skip down to the bottom with some more recent updates. The town continues its planning for its role in vaccine distribution. There have been rapid developments over the last 5 to 7 business days with regards to first responders and their vaccinations and our plans for that. We plan to work directly with the State Department of Public Health through our regional entity, the Central Mass Regional Public Health Alliance, to receive vaccines directly and distribute them directly to all first responders and direct employees of the police and fire departments. That would include all 7 communities. We would have a priority status with the Department of Public Health, given the size of our first responder group across all 7 of those communities. That positions Shrewsbury first responders to get the vaccine earlier than maybe they would have if we were trying to go it alone. And we're also receiving further clarity as information comes out about subsequent groups. We received word today that Group 1B includes our water treatment plant operational staff. I have to commend the EPW for doing a really good job and finding ways to operate with limited exposure to each other. But this is a welcome relief for someone like me who thinks about the really small number of staff that we have that are licensed to operate and provide such critical services to all residents and businesses within the community. So it's the end of my COVID report. I'm happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thanks, Mr. Mizikar. Any questions from the board?
Madam Chairman.
Mr. Kane?
Kevin, any direct correlation between the spike in responses from public safety agencies?
No, still nothing to tie those two things together at this point. So unfortunate that we have seen a few more deaths, but it doesn't seem to be causing any demand on emergency services.
And you speak of the water plant. Early on, you were concerned about some supply chain challenges. Are we experiencing any, or do we see any possibilities on the horizon?
No, we haven't really experienced anything with regards to chemical acquisitions. We've maintained a more vigorous schedule and our liquid deliveries to keep our tanks full. It's something post-pandemic that we need to think about. We really built the plant for just-in-time delivery, like so many other aspects of logistics these days. But knock on wood, we haven't had any significant challenges at this point.
Anyone else?
Madam Chair,
Mr. DiPaolo?
if I could ask Mr. Mizikar a question. Do we have any further breakdown on the 0 to 19 age group, like 14 and up or whatever? Do we have anything that secondary school? Just curious where the spread is. From everything we heard on the news, it seems to be the older group that's spreading, and I was just curious if that we had that info.
We don't have any further information. may have an opportunity as if we come down off of this high volume to work with existing staff at the Regional Alliance, and potentially it's been a goal of mine if we do get a green light on extended CARES Act funding to put more um, ability to both trace and analyze the data that comes in so we can understand it a little bit better. Obviously, it's a little late within the overall pandemic, but I think it's still important if we're going to see surges, both big and little, even throughout and beyond the vaccination period. So we just are a little bit understaffed in being able to crunch that data at this point. So we will provide that if we can.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Mizikar, how is the plan working that you have put into place to ensure that town operations can still function given surges like this? Like how is it impacting town services or our departments?
We've been able to operate, really very well. And I think because, we quickly transitioned to an A/B schedule, kind of as our most highest number of employees on site really being at 50%, we haven't seen any spread or very limited spread among staff members. And we actually have been very fortunate that, no single case has really had more than one or two close contacts within town operations. So the advice that we received from public health early on is really limited our exposure to each other. And then the support that we've received from IT has really allowed us to continue to work. If you call the town manager's office tomorrow morning, someone may, answer from their home, someone may be in the office, but it's really seamless to residents, and all departments are able to function that way because of our IT infrastructure.
Great, thank you. If there aren't any more questions, that brings us to item number 6 under financial business, coronavirus relief funding review.
So I will share my screen and go through this presentation briefly with you. Just wanted to provide an opportunity. When we began planning for this agenda item, we were only hopeful that we would see an extension on the CARES Act funding, and it looks like that may be coming to fruition, assuming everything gets finalized in Washington. But I wanted to take a step back and start with this slide that we used in, I believe it was your first meeting in July, to kind of take a look at how we plan to use the funds that we knew at that time. Obviously, the largest funding comes through the CARES Act, which provide both the second and third lines within this chart. It's just differentiated here as the one bucket solely went to the school, the coronavirus relief fund, and the CARES Act was split among town and school departments. And these breakdown between town and schools were really just our talking points and agreements with the school and the town as we were budgeting. We didn't want to ever spend the same dollar twice. And it's an allocation that in some instances has played out exactly. In other instances, we are sufficiently budgeted but didn't need this, quite the amount of funding on one side or the other. So we started off with a plan of having about $5 million in special aid to provide assistance in our operations in response to the pandemic. Since then, a couple things have come to fruition. We've been provided with a mobile vaccine unit, which is one unit that we'll use to supplement whatever actions that we take in conjunction with general public health officials in providing the coronavirus vaccine if needed, and we'll have into the future. It's a simple unit, self-contained, table, secure drawers, and related equipment, tables, chairs, etc. It's a nice contained unit that's very helpful, that allows us to be mobile and go on site wherever we may need to assist with the distribution. We are also a part of a $350,000 grant that was awarded to the Central Mass Regional Public Health Alliance, coordinated and used essentially for PPE and other supplies that we have saved for emergency dispensing sites for the coronavirus vaccine, and other planning and logistics like are currently underway for how we will begin rolling through the various groups like first responders and the subsequent groups thereafter. And then Representative Kane and Senator Moore were able to secure earmarked relief funds for the town of Shrewsbury up to $35,000, utilizing CARES Act funding for any specific services that we may need for PPE or other COVID response. So just want to roll through some of these funds and update you where we are. So with regards to the Public Health Trust Fund, we were awarded $26,852. We spent $21,044. Those funds expired the end of August of 2020. So about $5,808 went unspent. Very specific dollars. Only certain categories that we're allowed to spend within. But the two areas that we did spend in were communications and administration, which included additional financial support for the Manage of CARES Act funding, and these particular funds are overtime and communication on the weekends to residents about cases, and then $7,500 to Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services for behavioral health services related to pandemic response and residents in need. The largest funding category is the CARES Act. We were awarded $3,347,993. Our original kind of allocations that we established internally was that the town would utilize about 1.3, 1.4, and the schools would have use of about 2 million of those funds. I've broken out the various categories, and I'll just touch upon a few of them. The direct staffing, overtime, backfill, we've certainly utilized a lot. This allowed me to be able to answer the chair's question about our operations very positively, because anytime we needed to quarantine someone or have them not come into work, we were able to use CARES Act funding to pay for both the backfill of their shift and then for their leave while they were out without impacting the town budget. So it became a nice luxury for us to make those decisions and help stop the spread within the organization. We had a special line item for quarantine and isolation of first responders, very limited use of that, but this allowed police and firefighters to stay at alternative locations, mainly hotels, so during the surges, so they were not risking the health of their own families or their own quarantine and isolations if they were in contact with a positive individual. We utilized $12,000 for the management of this $3.3 million in funding. Accelerated telework capacity is just that. Acquisition of laptops, movement of our phone system from digital to an IP space environment, things like that. $62,000 in PPE seems like a relatively small number, but that is supplemented with direct granting of PPE both by town residents to the town, town businesses to town operations, and then from the state through mass emergency management, which is where we received our largest allotment from PPE. So this is the actual dollars that we spent on PPE. Sanitation, refuse collection. This is really for additional trash bins within the parks. This is a federal grant program that one day will sit across the table from a federal auditor. So I'll just note that we are very diligent in categorizing our funding and ensuring that we have proper receipts. And I have to tip my hat to town accountant Mary Thompson and Alice Farrow, who we hired for the strict management of these funds. They've done a fantastic job with documentation and making sure that we're spending appropriately. Cleaning and disinfection of public buildings, clearly our largest category. This is above and beyond the day-to-day operations that we had normally provided prior to the pandemic. This includes hiring additional part-time staff and contracted workers to clean high-touch surfaces within school and town buildings throughout daily operations. Remote educational enablement by the school department, $703,000. This really enables their hybrid educational model, both software, staff, hardware, and other related costs. Then I'll skip down. We certainly have bills that are still being processed that just weren't really ripe and clean to put in another category, which will ultimately be handled as we move into the final reconciliation and disbursement, but will certainly fall into all the categories above. And finally, unemployment. CARES Act funding is allowed to be used for any COVID related unemployment claims that the town is responsible for current or former employees. This is mainly the former employee category, or responsible for 8 quarters after an employee leaves the town's employ. We have financial responsibility to them, and our estimate through the end of the calendar year for that is $168,000. As a point of reference, through March, from July 2019 through March of 2020, we only spent about $30,000 on unemployment, and this $168,000 represents all COVID-related claims after that point. So a significant amount of money. So about $2 million spent, leaving about $1.4 million, $1,369,000 still available to us. It looked like that funding was going to go away and go back to the federal government, but again, with the recent stimulus round in Washington, it looks like we'll have the ability to use those funds through December 31st, 2021, which is fantastic because we all know in a few days nothing is going to change. We're going to have to continue to provide these services well into the future. So these funds will certainly help us, but likely be insufficient for another year's worth of effort, if that is what is required. Coronavirus relief funds were dedicated directly to support the educational program, the hybrid model. The school has expended all $1,390,050 of those funds. There is a $133,000 grant that was provided through DESE that had an expiration date of June 30th, 2022. Those funds remain available to the school department for their use in the future, and they have not been expended at this point. Kind of a little bit of a disappointment. What we thought was going to be a significant funding category through the Federal Emergency Management Administration. They've really, I think because of CARES, curtailed what is eligible for FEMA reimbursement. It's limited to direct emergency responder activities, so really police and fire activities in their direct response to the pandemic. Still a significant amount of money, $56,000, but they've been very stingy, I guess is how I can say it, in what funds we have access to from FEMA. And then finally, just a recap of everything. What we've expended, $3,443,553 estimated through December 30th, 2020, in our response to the pandemic, both direct and indirect costs, with about $1.5 million remaining on the table as we sit here today on December 22nd. That's the end of my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions on the board.
Thank you very much for that presentation. It's so interesting to look and see exactly how all of those dollars have been expended. Board members, are there any questions or comments for the manager?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Samia.
Kevin, thanks for the presentation. Just a couple related questions. Going forward, at least for the remaining part of our fiscal year, do you see the main cost driver being cleaning and disinfecting? Looking at this list, it seems like some of them may have been one-time purchases or just repeat purchases, but is that the big variable here we're looking at? And just a related question to that is, do you have an idea what we're looking at for COVID-related expenses for the remaining part of our fiscal year? Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do think that cleaning and disinfection public buildings will remain our largest category of expenditure. on the town side of things. I think that $443,000 number will need to double to get us through the school year and a balance of operations on the town side through June 30th of 2021. I think the next significant category will be our continued obligation for unemployment. One thing more proactively that may be a category that changes the most from a percentage basis would be testing for COVID-19. The schools are currently exploring some options for testing, and so are we on the town. We've been having some challenges with this recent surge of getting our employees some other testing option other than standing in line for 5 hours and being told that, oh, you're the next to last person, come back tomorrow. So there's more and more opportunities coming with legitimate state public health certified testing firms and agencies that we are considering contracts with that would fall under these funding categories. So we've only spent about $3,500, and really what that represents in that category is the town's reimbursement of employees' out-of-pocket costs to be tested on their own. It's $150, $160 a test. So we're trying to leverage our volume, knowing we may need X number of tests per week, on the town side, and what's the best approach for that. So I don't really have a total through the end of the fiscal year. If I had to guess, it would be somewhere between 600,000 and $1 million to get us through the end of the fiscal, based upon what we've seen so far.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Manager, are you anticipating with the vaccinations of our first responders that that's something that's going to be handled through our Board of Health? So I know what I'm seeing on television is right now healthcare workers being vaccinated in hospitals, but that doesn't seem like it's what you're expecting as we move forward.
Correct. I'm expecting that for our first responders, they'll be vaccinated by our public health nurses. That would include, the public health nurses of the city of Worcester and, potentially school nurses, potentially, we haven't gotten quite that far, but yes, I don't envision our first responders going to a medical facility and being vaccinated like in a hospital. I think we'd handle that through public health nursing and our local Board of Health with close alignment with the Alliance.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, then we can move on to item number 7 under meetings and hearings, which is a 7:05 public hearing with Ahmad Benjamin, owner of Ramsey Inc., doing business as J&M Market, 117 Clinton Street, for a wine and malt beverage package store license. Hours of operation, Sunday 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., Monday through Saturday 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I see that you're here with us on the line. So welcome, and let's take a look at your application. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what it is you're going to be doing, Mr. Benjamin?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the meeting, and thank everybody. We will just bought the building, and we're gonna start surfing the neighborhood with a convenience store, and we're gonna add pizza there, surfing food as well. Then we trying to get the beer and wine license too, to add it up, surf the neighborhood for everything to complete. We've been in business for a longer time in different location, and we're very excited to take that location and surf the neighborhood. We Shrewsbury resident. We live in Shrewsbury for over 20 years. And my wife and I, she's here too, we will surf the neighborhood as we was doing in Worcester too as well. And we very excited serve as a neighborhood there. It's a nice neighborhood and very quiet. There's no store there. It's only store there. I'm very excited to serve as a neighborhood.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So just taking a look at your application, board members, are there any questions for Mr. Benjamin?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Samia?
Thank you, and thank you for coming in this evening. Just as I'm going through the application, if I could get some clarity on a few points that I was having some difficulty with. Just a few questions in terms of how many employees there will be. I'll go one at a time. How many employees do you expect at this location?
We will be just started. The business has been closed a long time, and I just took it, bought the building, and fix it up. But then we're gonna start it with 3 to 4 employees here.
Okay. Okay, because the original application, the box is checked that you're not expecting any employees. Okay. In which entity will own, so it looks like the deed was purchased personally. I'm just trying to see who owns the property. Is it you?
I do.
Okay. And then the business is the applicant for the license. Is there a lease between you and the business? And the reason I ask is in section 7, there's a requirement that if it's under the same control, that there still has to be a lease. So I didn't know if there was a lease. I see the deed. I just didn't see a lease.
There's no lease existed yet, but there will be lease. We should do lease if this is how, if we have to. The building and I order the corporation, so it's merged together.
Okay.
as well.
All set, Mr. Samia?
For now, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes, Madam Chairman, if I might.
Go ahead, Mr. DiPaolo.
Uh, There are a couple of other errors in the application. It is a corporation, so you need to list the board of directors in the application where it asks for the officers, stock or ownership. That's not complete. And you do have to have a separate lease, as Mr. Samia said. You have to have a lease between yourself and your corporation, because the corporation is a separate legal entity. So even though you own the corporation and you own the building, you still have to have some kind of a lease. I'm not sure what it has to say. It could only be $1 a year, but the ABCC is gonna require that. And you got to fix the workman's comp thing, because on the certificate it says that you're not, as the owner, a corporate officer, you're not waiving the workman's comp, but in the application that you filled out for us, it says that you are. So I don't think there's any deal breakers here, but I think you need to fix this up before we vote on it. And I mean, that would be my opinion. It's just well, some of it's not little, but I mean, it's easily fixed. You have the information. You just have to correct it on the application. So that's just my comment. I think it'd be great if you could run your business there. At that area of town, Right now, it looks like it's underserved, so I hope it works out for you. But before that, I think you need to fix this application.
Okay, I'm gonna do this between the corporation and me, and the workers' comp. I have a workers' comp insurance. I already have that.
Yes, but you have to be, the application has to be consistent with the insurance certificate, and right now it's not. So I think our staff can explain it to you if you call tomorrow. If you want to
Sure.
call our office.
All right.
So-
That's the manager office.
So, Mr. Benjamin, this is a public hearing, so let me just pause for a moment to see if there are any members of the public that are wishing to be heard. Okay, so I'm not seeing anyone here for the public hearing. So my recommendation would be that we continue the public hearing to allow you, Mr. Benjamin, to have an opportunity to speak with someone in the town manager's office. I think it's Alex Martinez, and she can help you understand the different items that just need to be corrected on this application. And then you would be able to bring it back to our first meeting in January, which I think is the 12th. The 12th of January, and we could move ahead with your application at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I would look for a motion from my board to continue this public hearing, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Samia?
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mr. Kane,
Aye.
and myself, aye. So, Mr. Benjamin, if you want to just make a call to the town manager's office tomorrow, we can go ahead and get those things taken care of, and we'll see you back on January 12th.
I will take care of that tomorrow, and thank you very much for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item number 8 under new business, which is to review and act on the renewal of a Class 2 dealer license for Clinton Motor Cars LLC, 155 through 173 Hartford Turnpike, to expire May 1st, 2021.
Madam
This
Chair.
was left from the, Mr. Mizikar, go ahead. I think you're going to say what I was going to say.
Yeah, just update the board. We held this license as we needed to review a few matters. Two primary issues related to the license is the processing of a DEP permit related to a tight tank that receives water from the detailing aspect of this Class 2 license operation. The tight tank has been installed and is operating appropriately according to our Board of Health inspector, and this permit application has been submitted to DEP. DEP has a 90-day turnaround time, and we're currently within that period. So everything procedurally is in place. We just need the official permit. And then the owner has indicated that he would like to open the detailing operation to the public. That is not permitted under his current license, and he would need to come in for to review a new site plan with you. So I'm requesting that you grant this license through the end of May to ensure compliance with the DEP permit, and then see if the applicant comes in otherwise for the detailing aspect of the operation.
Okay. There's no further questions. The motion?
So I'm sorry, Madam Chairman, we're looking to
We're going to
postpone?
renew the Class 2 dealer license for Clinton Motor Cars, but it's just going to be through May 1st, 2021. So that's going to allow them time to come into compliance on other aspects of the license if they wish to proceed with a detailing business as well.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't catch
okay.
all of that, and I would like to make a motion to that effect.
Second.
Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded. Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Samia,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mr. Kane,
Aye.
and myself, aye. All right, and that brings us to correspondence. Item number 9 is an email dated December 5th, 2020 from State Representative Hannah Kane regarding the FY21 state budget update. Item number 10 is a letter dated December 8th, 2020 from Rabbi Michael Green, Chabad of Westboro, 54th South Street, Westboro, regarding the menorah lighting on the town common. That took place, I believe it was on December 10th or 11th of last week. Item number 11 is an email dated December 10th, 2020 from Mary Jane Handy, the Massachusetts Department of Revenue, regarding the tax rate approval notification for Shrewsbury 2021. Item number 12 is a letter dated December 10th, 2020 from Sandra Wright, Town Clerk, regarding Article 1, Section 3 of the General Bylaws. Item number 13 is an email dated December 11th, 2020 from State Representative Hannah Kane regarding the FY21 state budget update and governor's action. Item number 14 is an email dated December 15th, 2020 from State Representative Hannah Kane regarding the FY22 tax revenue forecast hearing. And just as a note, I have invited in State Representative Kane and Senator Michael Moore now that the state budget has been finalized for FY21, excuse me, 22, to speak with our board about just basically what's been going on Beacon Hill, also budget items that are related to the town, and just to give us an update outside of the correspondence that we received prior to our meetings. And then item number 15 is an email dated December 16th, 2020 from Marian Burakatu, 9 Whippoorwill Drive, regarding a resignation from the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. I'd like to thank Marian Burakatu for her service to the task force. The task force has currently met 4 times, and it has been very time-consuming and thoughtful work that's being done. Marian notes that due to a change in her work schedule, she is going to be unable to continue on in her role on the task force. So just wanted to let people know why and thank her for her time. And that is it for the agenda. Is there anything else to come before the board in open session? Okay, very good. I'm not seeing anything, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mr. LeBeau,
Aye.
Mr. Samia,
Aye.
Mr. DiPaolo,
Aye.
Mr. Kane,
Aye.
and myself, aye. That's it. Our last meeting of 2020 is adjourned. Happy holidays and Happy New Year. We'll see you all in 2021.
Same to you.
Okay, well, happy
Good night.
Happy holidays. Happy New
Thank you,
Year.
everyone.
Merry Christmas.